If you're even thinking about working on your own pool equipment installation setup on your own, you had better watch this video. And as a matter of fact, if you own a swimming pool, you should probably watch this video. As a pool professional, when we walk up to your equipment installation setup, pump, filter, heater, salt chlorinator, that kind of thing, we can tell on site whether an amateur has been working on this system or not immediately. And it's not so much that there's like a standard and it has to be done exactly like this or it's wrong. Really not like that at all. There's all manners of different installation configurations which would be considered both professional looking and acceptable, but there's a bunch of amateur looking stuff that is never acceptable, and you can tell as a pool pro immediately, unskilled hands have been working on this system. That's what this video is for. I'm going to review a bunch of the worst offending stuff for that, and hopefully I can help you to do it a little bit better when you're working on your pool system. And I think that this video is going to uncover a couple of things which almost certainly you're going to end up using and implementing for yourself. Let's get started. The first thing that I want you to never do when you're plumbing in pumps and filters and heaters and stuff like that, stay away from those 45 fittings. There is a time and a place for them to be used. And in very skilled hands, a skilled plumber could do some stuff with them which looks pretty good. You can get away with doing it. If you're not really a skilled plumber in this regard and you're just kind of doing this for the first time, but like, no, over here and up and then over the, don't do that. It ends up looking really bad, and it's not worth whatever flow efficiency you're attempting to save by having, one less fitting or, 6 feet total of less pipe in the entire equipment installation setup. Totally not worth it. You have to live with this thing, look at it day after day after day, and it needs to look professional because maybe you want to sell your house one day, and a guy like me is looking at buying the house, and I'm going to walk up there, take one look at it, laugh, and just turn and walk away and know that I got to cut all that out and delete it and redo it. So moving on this list, let's find some more of these worst offending things that you're not going to do anymore, or if you didn't do it, you're going to notice that somebody else did on your equipment pad, and maybe you're going to make some improvements. Does that work? Can you see it? I want you to do it better. Do it better. So this is permanent marker. Little squigglies there. So as you can see here, that doesn't really come off, and neither does solvent, cement, or PVC glue, and primers are the worst of all. Purple primer, don't spill the can. Do everything you have to not spill that can. And when you're making a pipe joint connection, it should, like, you have to have controlled movements. You shouldn't be all over the place. Like, it's really overkill. If you're going to make 1.5 inches of a pipe connection, don't have 3 inches worth of glue, and you end up with these pipes that are all just, it looks really bad by the end of the job. And I want to give you something that I would do if this were my pool to do it better. So I wouldn't recommend doing this everywhere on your pool, but if you've got like kind of a worst offending spot, you spilled a bunch of primer on the pipe and it looks like crap, you tried to clean it off, nothing's working, what I might recommend to do. Okay, now I'm going to do it not trying to hold it up to the camera. You saw what I was doing. Because this knife is very sharp, and I don't want to cut myself. Almost done. So there we have, I mean, it's not perfect. As you can see, we've taken some of this exterior coating off the pipe. I tell you what, if my options are this, big blotch of purple primer or something like that, or this area that I scrape clean, and unless you knew to look for it, you probably don't see that. I'll take that any day. I'll take that any day over the primer that you can see from outer space. I would do this, and even in like 3 to 4 years, this area of the pipe was starting to damage from the sun because it doesn't have the same UV protection. My answer would be, oh, weird. Yeah, like I didn't put glue and primer on that. So moving on, clean your pipes. Let's talk about something that you should never do. So you've got this PVC pipe and you've got a fitting right here, and let's say it's leaking, you know, and to fix this, I'd have to take a bunch of stuff apart, I guess, and replumb it or something. But maybe you can like put some epoxy around that. Or what about silicone? Would silicone work? No, none of those will work. Don't do it. It looks like crap. I can see immediately that somebody's attempted some hokey repair and it will never work. It's not that it works sometimes, so you're like, whatever, give it a try. It never works. It's absolutely not going to work to try to seal a connection like this by applying something on the outside. It doesn't matter what you're using. So go ahead and just figure out a way to replumb this properly where you can take the connection apart, cut it out, redo it, whatever you have to do. Don't try to seal around it with silicone or epoxy. No yellow glue. Yellow is for ABS, and that is exclusively for non-pressure rated applications. And swimming pools are all pressure rated. So there shouldn't be any ABS in your system at all. So you should never have like black rigid pipe that says ABS or DWV on it for drainage waste vent. And you should never use yellow solvent cement or pipe glue on PVC, flexible PVC, rigid PVC, CPVC, none of them. This is never the right stuff for a swimming pool. So if you're looking at your equipment setup and you see a bunch of yellow, glue on the joints, and you're like, well, is that a problem? Yeah, it's a problem. It's the wrong stuff, and you should never do that. And even if it's been that way for a while and it's okay for now, I guess, it's not to me. And this video is about doing it better. No yellow glue. Do it better. In talking about ABS, I've got a ABS elbow here as an example. Now, this isn't something that you would use for a swimming pool ever. This is something that I would use to fix my kitchen sink, and maybe you would as well. And here is a pressure-rated PVC fitting. Now, here's where things can get confusing. What if this one were white? If this were white, looked just like this, and it's sitting on a shelf, says PVC, 2-inch in size, yeah, that's what I need. It's an elbow. Is this the right thing to use even if it's white? It is not. And I'm going to give you the secret on how you can spot it at a glance. And you'll start seeing this all the time when people post pictures of work they've done on the internet. If you zoom in and look, you'll be able to spot something, and it's very important. So take note of the length of the glue slip joint. And the glue slip joint is the part that you glue the pipe into. Can you see the difference there? So one of them is 3/4 of an inch long and one of them is 1 3/8 of an inch long. And you're like, well, what's the difference? And I'm like, well, one failed and flooded your house, one didn't. So that's the difference. One is for pressure rated applications, one is for drainage applications only. And you might be able to get away with it. People do all kinds of crazy stuff, but you shouldn't. And if you have, take a look, if you've got especially the long sweep elbows, there's a lot of people who have started using those. And I think it's mostly from me talking about it on the internet and people reading it through my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com. And I think that because you can't really buy that product through if you go to your regular hardware store, wherever you normally go to shop for hardware, and if you look for this, you'll find this, and it will be white, but it's still not the right stuff because you got to look at that length of that glue slip joint, and as you can see, it's totally different, and it makes all the difference in the world. Double check and make sure that you don't have anything with a 3/4 inch glue slip joint on your pool equipment pad. This is a good one. Okay, so have you ever had to use one of these? That is a PVC male adapter, a threaded male adapter. So we've got these threads on one side and then a glue slip joint on the other side. And you might use something like this to thread into the suction and outlet ports of your pump, or 3 of them on a filter for in, out, and then the waste port. That's common, especially with older pool equipment, very common. A lot of newer equipment is, starting to come with proprietary unions and high flow fittings and things like that. They're a little bit better than these because there's kind of a problem with these, especially when you're talking about a swimming pool pump connection. So if you have these on your swimming pool pump and they look just like the ones I'm holding in my hand, I mean, it's not wrong. It's not specifically against the rules. Oh, you've done the wrong thing here. But here's the reality. This thing's probably going to fail. Can be a high temperature application when you're connecting to a pool pump. Pool pumps can generate crazy amounts of heat, more than you realize. Both the electric motor can get smoking hot, as well as a lot of internal components moving around and creating friction. And you can generate a lot of heat with a pool pump. Now stick it out in the sun in the middle of, Arizona in the summer. And yeah, there's a lot of heat to be had. And these things just really aren't made for it. If you were to take a heat gun and blast this thing for a minute or two, it'd become so malleable you could just crush it with your hand. People actually do that with PVC quite a bit for heat bending long sweep radiuses on pipe runs and things like that. It's a pretty great trick to do, actually. But when we're talking about swimming pool pumps, and especially ones that you're doing yourself, you don't want to have problems. You don't want to be revisiting this over and over again. So let's take a homeowner grade solution and let's upgrade it to a contractor grade solution. So what we have here, there's a couple of things going on. There's two components to this. We still have the threaded male adapter component, and we still have the glue slip joints. We have that same part as before, but we also have a new component, which is the union. So there's, in fact, even a third thing going on here. You notice there's a color difference. Does that mean anything? In this case, it does. This is for high temperature applications. This can withstand higher temperatures before it will become malleable and start to distort or deform. This would be a great investment to use on your swimming pool pump. Could not recommend high enough to use a high temperature union, and in this case, a threaded male adapter high temperature union. And the union component here is great. There's all kinds of reasons. Like, for example, if you close and winterize your pool every year, you might have to open things up, including your plumbing, open some unions, move pipes around. It's really common when you do stuff like that, you induce leaks in things like threaded fittings, which really aren't made to move, or they can develop like a slow leak. If you have that slow leak and you've got one of these, you can't turn it, you can't, snug that back up. There's nothing you can do. You have to cut open the system, and now you're replumbing things again. With a union, it's very simple that you just spin the union open. Now, you don't even move it. It's just sitting right there. But now I can, oh, there we go. Oh, tighten. Now it's not going to leak anymore. Okay, good. And now you just, it takes 3 seconds versus, again, you're talking about cutting the system open, and then we got to get some fittings. And as I do, when you're plumbing with PVC, it's like painting yourself into the corner. The very last connection is hard to make. So you're going to have to make this connection, and the pump's hard to move, and the filter's hard to move. This solves this completely in a very neat, compact, and professional way. And I highly recommend that you adopt something like this for any future work that you're considering doing to your swimming pool equipment pad. If you found this information helpful, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.